Good evening. Welcome to the Town of North Andover's Finance Committee meeting on Tuesday, May 4th, 2021. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 18, and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitation on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the North Andover Finance Committee will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and or parties with a right and or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the town's website at northandoverma.gov. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to watch the meeting may do so on their televisions by tuning to Comcast Channel 99 or Verizon Channel 28 or northandovercam.org. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on the Town of North Andover website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. It is now 7:02 p.m. and I call this meeting to order. Let's do a roll call, please. Christine Allen.
Here.
Ed McMillan.
Here.
Thomas Ringler.
Here.
Donovan O'Connell.
Here.
Jennifer Luz. She is here for the record. I just I'm not sure her audio is appropriately coming through, but she is on the call. Regina Keene.
Here.
Dustin Silk.
Here.
Kevin Foley.
Here.
Thank you, everyone. I will now ask for you to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, for liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, it is now 7:04. We have no public comment as of right now, so I'm just going to check my email one more time in case there was any submitted in the last few minutes. There is not. Okay. So we can move on. So at this time, we're going to vote on the warrant articles for the June 2021 town meeting. I'm going to see if I can share this. I don't know if I can share a Word document. Hold on. Okay. Can everyone see my screen? I need someone to unmute themselves and tell me because I can no longer see it.
Yes, we can see it, or I can see it.
Great. Thank you. So, thank you to Chris for putting this together. So essentially what we did is Jillian was so kind as to pull the articles for us from the warrant that we need to make a recommendation on. Here are the articles that we've already voted on, right? We already did that. Here are the articles to vote on. And then here are the items that I am recommending we don't take a vote on. And so we can discuss that. I'd also, if the committee is amenable to it, and I will take a motion shortly, I would like to vote if we believe that we will have the same vote for all of them. I would like to take the votes together, which I was told is no problem, and we can do that. Especially since it's a roll call, I think that it would make more sense to be able to to be able to do that, or else we'll be here for quite some time. So essentially, if we can briefly speak about these items here. So Article 24 and Article 25 in the warrant. The first one is to transfer funds from free cash to fiscal year 2021 to the general fund for COVID-related expenses. I had a conversation today, and Lynn is actually here. Our finance director, Lynn Savage, is here, and maybe she can briefly talk about this, although I'm putting her a bit on the spot. Because it appears that we may have enough funds where we would just pull this from the warrant, and we won't necessarily need to transfer from free cash to cover to the general fund at town meeting for 2021. So my recommendation is to wait to take an action on this article. Lynn, do you want to speak about that quickly?
Yeah, I mean, I am still working through the numbers. I mean, we still have 2 months left to get through the fiscal year. The way it stands right now, I don't see that we're going to probably need that, but that could change. I mean, something, could happen between now and June 30th. I know we have a lot of, quite a few retirements this year that are going to be being paid out in May and June. So that's going to hit the budget pretty hard because they were unexpected retirements in the fire department that we hadn't budgeted for. So, I mean, with it being a fairly good year for snow, we don't have a huge snow deficit. So I'm anticipating that between the surpluses and several of the budgeted line items, we have the finance committee reserve, things like that. I think that we should be okay. But I still have to run the numbers, and I'll have more information probably towards the end of May, beginning of June.
Right. So right before town meeting, essentially.
Yep.
So so my recommendation would be to not take motion. Lynn, do we have to formally take no action with a vote, or can we just not vote?
I mean,
procedurally.
And you can vote at town meeting on it. I mean,
Of course.
typically, I think the board of selectmen will vote favorable action on it. And then if we decide we don't need it, they'll just vote at the town meeting and say, take no action on Article 20, on this particular article.
Right.
Right.
So it's at the,
feel comfortable doing. Because nothing can be done until town meeting anyway. So.
Of course. So what is the consensus from the committee? Do you just want to wait to take an action? We have to vote on the other article as well. The appropriation from free cash for FY 2022 before town meeting. We will have a couple meetings before town meeting anyway. So my recommendation, I think, would be to hold off on both of those articles. How do you guys feel?
Yeah, Sasha, this is Donovan. I think that's completely reasonable. I would rather not vote on something that we don't know we need yet. And since we're meeting between now and town meeting at least a few times, we can always take up that vote then. So that's my feeling.
Right. And Sasha, if I could just expand a little further too, with the new guidelines that have been put in place with the CARES Act money and FEMA, I'm reviewing everything that was submitted between the two of them, because some of the things that I didn't think I could submit to FEMA may now be eligible. So that there's a lot of moving parts to all of this CARES Act and COVID-19 expenses.
Got it.
It's the administrative nightmare.
I can imagine.
It's crazy, but so there's a lot of moving things. So between everything, I think we'll probably be fine.
So can I get some opinions from the rest of the committee? I mean, I'm happy to take a formal vote, but if everyone feels like we can hold off, I would.
I'd rather not vote on something we don't have all the information, and we just don't. So it seems appropriate to me. We don't have all the information. We don't know how much money it's going to be. Really, we don't. Not exactly. We don't know how it's going to come and what form and how we can spend it. So there's just too much. So worthy to put that off.
There's no downside.
Great.
So I'm fine.
Okay.
I'm supportive of waiting as well.
I agree.
Yeah, I don't think it makes a difference. Just curious. So if we don't have to transfer any money, so I mean that is then available for future years. So what which is kind of already a positive deviation from our business planning, right?
Yeah.
Do we know roughly how much we're going to leave, or what was the plan we anticipated to transfer? Was there a number out there?
There was no
Yes.
definite number because we needed to figure out between the school department what additional items they needed to purchase and what additional expenses they had for the CARES Act, especially where school is now back in session, preparing them. We weren't really sure.
But I thought
Well,
we
the number on the warrant, though, the number on the warrant was 1.34 million from free cash to the general fund to cover COVID expenses in fiscal year 2021.
If it got to that high, right? It hasn't gotten that high yet. So
I thought I recall a slide. I think Melissa presented that our free cash flow is going down this year for various reasons. Is that now not the case? So we'll at least unchanged or even going up?
No, so I don't mind. I know exactly. Lynn can take this certainly, but I know what you're talking. The slide you're talking about, and so that had all of the different factors that impacted free cash, right? So if the only thing that this is would change the two variables would be an appropriation of free cash to cover any COVID expenses in FY21, and then the next article is the appropriation for FY22 of $2.6 million. So the reason why my recommendation would be to hold off on that recommendation from the Finance Committee is because we don't know what federal funding we're going to get and the guidelines around spending that federal funding. So as soon as we get those guidelines, then Lynn and Melissa and everyone else who works very hard at all this stuff will be able to say we can use it for these things, which is what we thought we were going to need the 2.6 for. So whatever we get is gonna reduce the amount of free cash that needs to be allocated for FY22 as well. So it's twofold, but you're still gonna have free cash be appropriated for capital expenses.
that's correct. You explained it correctly. So we won't hear from the federal government on how we're going to be able to use that federal funding until probably the middle of May. They said that they're going to be dispersing by May 10th, and we're not part of that first disbursement. So it will be middle of May to probably end of May before we find out how we're going to be able to use that funding that we're going to get. So I'm hoping that we won't have to use any free cash.
So I guess, Thomas, I guess your point is correct, and that it leaves us in a much better position if that's the case, right? Because when that slide was created, we didn't know we were getting potentially $9 million from the federal government. And I think I learned this today, did we get more than initially budgeted from the Amazon building permit as well?
Yes, you will be pleasantly surprised when you see the receipts in April and when you see the financial reports at the end of April. Yeah, we've got close to $6 million on building permits in 1 month. Yep.
So, I mean, I think in full disclosure, I had this conversation today with Melissa and the superintendent and assistant superintendent, just to get some more information, because I was unsure about the $2.6 million, and also want to make sure that they were planning on coming to speak with us after they present to the school committee. So the school administration is going to present to the school committee, I believe, this Thursday regarding their plans for the use of the $2.6 million. After that, we can schedule a date that works for the finance committee for the administration to come in and kind of do that same presentation. And we can also ask different questions, right? Because our focus is a bit different about the use of those funds. And, assuming we have more guidance from the feds at that point, we'll know how much of that is actually coming from free cash and how much potentially comes from other sources.
Are we going to have an overview when all this is settled And so we, we know what's our new free cash. I hear, more money coming in here, less money going out there, on top of already a very solid free cash flow balance. It's almost like we're stashing money away somehow, and it's accumulating and accumulating for future use. I mean, that sounds a little bit to me, and I don't want to have a misunderstanding in town meetings. Somebody says, "Yeah, I hear all these things. Everything is flowing, and we're spending less. So where's all that money going?" Could be a bit of a misunderstanding when people not being involved in all the details pick these pieces together. I'm sure they hear that Amazon is now paying more. They pick up that we didn't have a big snow removal charge this year. All that.
Can I speak to that? Misha?
Yes. So we actually, so I think Regina did a really good job of this in our warrant report, and we can talk about that after this as well.
Okay, so she can speak if she wants. I just wanted to make sure that Thomas realizes that when Melissa presented the budget to the Finance Committee and the Board of Selectmen, we agreed to use free cash that we had that was certified last year to pay for capital again, knowing that Amazon was going to be paying the building permits, and that would replenish the free cash for future budget years or future projects in the future, so that we're not per se, Thomas, stashing money aside. I mean, it's very hard to predict how a year is going to turn out, and because we're so conservative in our budget planning, which helps us in the long run, we have turnbacks at the end of the year, which gives us the free cash. And that free cash calculation won't get done until it gets certified by the state. And that's usually time frame of middle to the end of August. I try to get it. I actually have till the middle of September, but I do try to get it to them sooner. So that by then you will know what our new certified free cash will be after town meeting, after the budget closes and things like that.
All right.
Okay.
Okay. So we're all in agreement that, and I'll present again my screen. That we're not gonna take an action at this point on Articles 24 and 25. The items we are gonna vote on are the ones that are highlighted in the middle. We already voted on these up top. Many of them are things that we see every year. And the big one that maybe you want to highlight is kind of this CPC. But there's other, we've already voted on the operating budget and the enterprise funds, as well as the SIP. So do I have a motion?
Sasha, just quick question, if you don't mind. And
yeah, of course.
It's going to seem innocuous, but is there a particular reason why some of them are highlighted in green and some of them are highlighted in yellow? Okay.
No, sorry.
I have the same
There's
question.
not.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
No.
I can answer that for you really quick. It's just I was trying to do this and I was trying to figure out what to bundle and if we should bundle. I thought that some bundles I thought we might just bundle a couple together that are really no brainers and then bundle other ones together. So it was do we bundle 2 together, 3 together, 4 together, and do a 3, 4, 2 like that?
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Chris.
You're welcome. And so as you're reading it, you can actually look and say the decision is right now, do we take them all at once? Or do you just want to take 3 and then another 3 like that?
So I would, well, if there's no other questions, I would move that we take them all at once and recommend favorable action.
So I have to take two motions.
Okay. I don't see Article
So
13. Yeah.
I can't hear you, Lynn.
I don't see Article 13, which is the capital plan.
So we already voted on that.
Okay,
So
it's not
it would be up here. Yeah, I'm not sure why, but yeah,
Okay.
that was up here. Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank you for that. I actually noticed it when I was looking at it too, and I realized it's not included. So, so Donovan, can I ask for a motion to take all of the to vote all of the articles at once, please?
Sure. Donovan O'Connell, I would like to make a motion to vote all of the outstanding articles at one time.
Do I have a second?
All right. Before I second it, I'd like to amend it. I think he should at least list the numbers of the articles, which ones, so that it's
Sure.
very clear. So
Sure.
amend it to Article 2, Article 6.
So Chris, that would be the second. So there's two different motions that are going to be made. So the first one would be, I move that we take a collective motion, or take the articles collectively, and then when we move to vote on them, we'll list them in the appropriate descriptions. Is that okay? Does that make sense?
In that case, Chris Allen, I second the motion.
Thank you. All right, I will take a roll call vote.
Can we have a quick
Kevin Foley?
Can we have a quick
Yes, I apologize. Yes, please. Do I have any discussion?
Article 6, maybe I missed what's behind the amendment.
So that we discussed, that's the one that we discussed in our meeting. That's just amending our town charter with a couple sentences so that it matches where we display our finance committee, our warrant report, and also how we distribute it. We don't need to put it in the newspaper.
Okay, all right, yep. So
Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll take a roll call vote. Kevin Foley?
Yes.
Justin Silk?
Yes.
Regina Keene?
Yes.
Jen Luz?
Yes.
Donovan O'Connell?
Yes.
Thomas Ringler?
yes,
Ed McMillan?
Yes.
Chris Allen?
Yes.
And I also vote favorably. So now we can move forward. So the motion passed. I will take a motion to approve I will take a motion regarding an action on Articles 2, 6, 14, 15, 16, 21, 22, 23, and 26. Do I have a
Yes,
motion?
this is Donovan O'Connell. I would move that we vote favorable action on Article 2, Article 6, Article 14, Article 15, Article 16, Article 21, 22, 23, Article 26, and I'm not sure. I think there's one, if you scroll up, I think I'm missing one on the second page, but maybe not. Nope.
Nope.
Okay.
I think.
said them all.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
This is Regina Keene. I'll second. And could everyone mute when they're not talking because there's horrible back noise, please.
Thank you. All right. I have a second. Do I have any discussion? Hearing none, I will take a roll call vote. Kevin Foley,
Yes.
Justin Silk,
Yes.
Regina Keene,
Yes.
Jennifer Luz,
I think I saw that she had a drop or dropped.
okay. Donovan O'Connell,
Yes.
Thomas Ringler,
yes,
Ed McMillan,
Yes.
Chris Allen.
Yes.
I also vote favorably, and the motion passes. Okay. Stop sharing my screen. All right. So by taking all of those together, we just saved ourselves a considerable amount of time, but also we've discussed them all pretty much at length for a considerable amount of time. So I feel more than confident in us doing that. We can now move on to our next section discussing and revising the warrant report, unless anyone has any other comments about the articles or questions. Okay. So we'll just continue to monitor kind of those other two with reports from Lynn and Melissa, as well as the school administration. I do urge everyone to watch the presentation to the school committee on Thursday or whenever you can over the weekend on YouTube. I think it'll be really helpful for us to do that as a committee in advance of the school administration coming to see us, so that we're prepared with questions. And if you have any questions that you would like them to be prepared to answer in advance, we can certainly send those out to the school administration. So let's move on, discuss and revise the warrant letter. I'll pull it up. I apologize for the late send, but there was a bunch of stuff that came in and I wanted to make sure we had all of the latest versions of everything. It also, by the way, is very challenging for me to run the meeting and look at one screen and not see any of your faces. So feel free to jump in if you're kind of trying to say something. I can't see you. So it gets a little bit hard. All right. Nope. Hold on. Okay, can everyone see this? Yes?
Yes.
Yeah, we can see it. Yeah.
Thank you. All right, so you guys tell me how you want to go over this. I can go section by section. All of the changes that we discussed were incorporated unless something was missed. I still have not had the opportunity to run through and just make sure that all the numbers are represented in the same fashion, which I can easily do. And then there probably needs to be a couple more editing passes just to make sure it's in really, really good shape. But we also have a bit of an extension until next week. We don't have to have it in on Friday. So we have a couple days to make sure that this is our best and final. I can just kind of, I think we'll skip executive and we can go back to it. It's probably helpful. And just quickly jump section by section. I think most of these we can breeze through, and there's some we're going to want to stop and really focus on. Does that sound okay to everyone? Yes?
Sounds
Yes.
good to me.
Thank you. So the municipal and shared expense budgets, I think, Dustin, do you just want to, I think we pared this down a bit, right? And you want to talk about this for a sec?
Yeah, so I did take out the redundant part about the school committee, or I'm sorry, not the school committee, the school COVID-19 budget there, the one-time free cash. I took that out, and then I merged the final paragraph with that second paragraph there, and that was it. I think that the major takeaway from this was that it's a reduction of the budget there. Decrease.
I think this is short and sweet, gets to the point. Does anyone have any changes, substantial changes that they'd like to incorporate, or is everyone okay with this section? All right. Keep moving then. School department budget. So I will say that I think a couple of us took a look at this. I want to applaud Regina for all of the initial like effort and substance that was here. It was phenomenal. I think that we took a little bit of a tried to consolidate some things and then take out some of the detail. So I don't know if everyone had the opportunity to read it. I know it was sent out closer to the meeting. Is there feedback here that we want to talk through? I can give you a few minutes.
I liked the edits that you guys made. Thank you. Thank you and Kevin.
It was really there was a lot of really good info, so it was a positive thing. I think the one thing that maybe makes sense and we can get some feedback is this table. I loved this idea. The one thing that I added was the difference between the budget and the funding source. So I don't know if we want to just like remove budget or if that's helpful, but it's really that the funding source is recurring revenue. I don't know if we just leave this kind of blank because it depends, I guess, outside of the normal operating budget.
Does anybody know what the overall policy is for capital expenditures? I mean, for buildings and stuff like that. Is it 3% of the 3 to 5% of the value of the building each year that you're supposed to put into it, or 3% or something like that? For capital, reserve for capital?
Well, do you mean here?
So for example, if you had a home that's worth $500,000, you're supposed to set aside 3% of the value of that, or put in about 3% of the value of that home each year to maintain it. Does the town have any sort of a policy like that for buildings? I think we used to.
So
A target, at least.
I'm not sure off the top of my head if it's like a percentage. I know that that would vary based on the age, right, and need of the building. So I think it's more there's a capital needs assessment, and then those are prioritized on a yearly basis through like a specific.
The only reason I'm bringing that up is because subpart 2 says buildings as needed. So I wasn't sure if we had a policy for that. That's all I was asking.
Got it.
Well, the school department had a policy for that. I'm not sure.
I don't know. I mean, we can ask. We can certainly ask what the specifics are and how they.
They certainly do an active capital improvement plan each year. So.
Yep. They do.
Maybe the frequency should be, as outlined in capital improvement plan or something, it's.
That probably makes sense, Regina.
Well, it's a master plan, right? Like facilities master plan?
Master plan. Yes, facilities master plan. That's better. Because I don't remember now if that was taken out, but I had something about the fact that facilities master plan. But yeah, the paragraph where it says lastly, the last paragraph, it refers to facilities master plan too. So I think that'd be good.
And so I just want to also point out, make sure everyone kind of agrees with this. What I tried to, like, I think we all tried to do in putting this all together is to kind of set the stage, like, here's what's going on now, but going forward, if what everyone's asking for and presenting as the needs, if that, we're not telling you that those are the needs, that's what, the administration and the school committee are saying. If those are the needs, all we're kind of saying is that our current funding sources don't meet those needs from a financial perspective. And that, I think, was the point in this section too, to make sure we say that. And we've said that in past years as well. But this year we specifically said we need new growth and override or debt exclusion. I think it's kind of, especially given the tri-board meeting that we had, it's important to put that in writing. I don't know if everyone agrees with that.
Oh, well, I totally agree with that. It's like, we're not making the decision that, yes, we have to have these things happen. And I'm talking about a debt exclusion, tax override, or significant new growth. We only need those things if the town chooses to invest in the facilities and infrastructure of their schools. So if the town decides they need better schools, then these other three things, one of these three things has to happen. I think it's about as clear as we can say it here. We're not making those decisions for the town, but we are outlining that, yes, indeed. You can't have nice things unless you're willing to pay for them. That's really the bottom line. So I'm with you on that. I like the way it's written. I think you did a good job. You and Regina both.
All right, so we'll move forward unless there's further comment on the school section. Okay. All right. Retiree health insurance and pension costs. Donovan, do you want to talk about this quickly?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't do too much. We moved Kevin's verbiage up to this section on the OPEB trust. And there was something else that I did that is escaping me right now. I feel like I added some verbiage around saying that the OPEB liability was going to continue to increase year after year, and that was, yeah, in the second paragraph. Each year the liability will continue to grow. Yep.
Got it. Okay.
For both as per our discussion the last time.
Okay. Any comments, questions about this section? Okay. All right, we'll move on. Reserves. I don't think that there was any significant changes. The only thing is that based on Regina's comment last meeting, and she reminded me of it because I can remember, I did insert this sentence. But I don't think any other changes were made unless, Kevin, I missed something.
I don't. I think what you've done with this it looks good. I finally got my fooling around my camera while you were talking about that. So with regard to the reserve section, I know what you're going to have to do is go back in and make it all uniform on how you present the numbers in there. But in terms of substance, I think it's fine the way it's written.
Great. Okay. Any other comments or questions before I move on? All right, we'll keep moving. The SIP,
Yeah,
I don't think there was any.
Okay, sure.
So
I thought it was up here doing this
No.
thing. I'm like, okay.
it puts a little thing over your camera.
I see.
Can you mute can everyone mute? Thank you. So capital improvement plan, I don't think there was any changes from the last meeting. Were there, Thomas?
I don't think we made any changes, or did you make any changes?
No, I didn't. So I think this is,
No.
all right. No. So I think that's good. Any other questions, comments about the SIP? All right. Enterprise funds. Ed, do you want to talk about this quickly? Just water and sewer?
Yep, per your request, I pulled some numbers from the budget and added the comparison 2021 to 2020. So pretty much the same format as last year with those numbers. And I guess as appropriate, I think the Stevens Estate, which is the one with the most significant change, got the most explanation.
Okay. I think there was a sentence in here, I think, right?
I'm sorry?
This is didn't we, I think maybe add this sentence or something. I mean, I think this,
I added that too.
yeah, I think this looks good. Some of the comparisons. So I think the substance of this is appropriate. Any questions or comments about water and sewer? All right, we'll move on. Stevens Estate. Any, and Jen, do you want to chat about this quickly?
Sure. Can everybody hear me? I'm sorry, I'm just audio only.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, so I revised this section, as you can see, to add in a lot more of the details and the concerns that the committee has about the Stevens Estate. And so what I added here gives a little bit more color about the financial challenges that the estate faced in light of COVID and the restrictions on their operations, but then also try to put things in context of the fact that there are significant capital improvements that the estate is going to need, both to maintain itself in its current operating status and how it is currently, but also longer term, that there are significant improvements that are needed that are sort of not just everyday maintenance, but just because of the age of the building. This now also notes that the retained earnings of the Stevens Estate have been depleted because that was needed to be relied upon for the operations over the past year. And it talks about how the budget that is being put forward is only for 4 months because that's the expected time frame that the town has to hopefully negotiate some sort of a resolution with the bidder who responded to the RFP. I also noted in the news section that if there is no contract approved or if nothing is resolved within those 4 months, that there may be a need for a special town meeting to deal with further budgetary decisions about the estate. There's some statements in there now about the real concern that we all share about the long-term financial needs of the estate. So I think that I'm hoping this covers more of what we talked about last week, but looking forward to any comments folks might have.
I like it.
Yes, me too. I was just going to say, I really appreciated the further detail. I think it's great.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Good. All right. So then the conclusion, I think we, say, just kind of conclude. We say thank you. I don't know, maybe we put another sentence in here and tie it back to the executive summary. Maybe I'll make a little note about that so I don't forget. But I think generally speaking, that's just kind of ending our report. If we can swing back to the executive summary. When I was writing this, this is kind of the opinion-y piece, or just like, here's kind of what's going on. Is there anything else that the committee feels that we should be highlighting in the executive summary that's missing? Anything that needs to be stronger? I'll wordsmith this a bit to make it more concise and more eloquently written, I guess. But generally speaking, is this what you guys want to say?
Sasha, I think content-wise, you're on the money. I did notice, though, in the first sentence of the executive summary, the reference to the Board of Selectmen, and I think anywhere that we have in there, we'll have to call it the Select Board because it was changed at town meeting last year.
Thank you so much for that, Kevin. You're right. This is because I kept the language.
I don't know if that's anywhere else in the warrant letter or not, but I did notice that in the first sentence.
Perfect. I really appreciate that catch. Is it 2 words or 1? 2? Okay.
I think it's 2 words.
Thank you for that. Is that perfect? That was a great catch. And thank you, Regina, for all of your work in making that the Select Board. I think that's a really great thing. Okay, so any other comments about the executive summary?
So the only thing I would have is, we had a very brief discussion, and I think we never really discussed it in more detail. At some point, I asked Melissa if it's really wise to use the free cash to pay capital investment this year, and I think that's and we can decide if we want to throw that in. I think it's a bit unique how much we actually use for capital investment this year. I believe in comparison to previous years, it's a fairly big amount. I know we used, especially on the enterprise funds with water and sewer, a lot of retained earnings to make investments, so we don't have to go into more debt. But I think for the general fund, it's a fairly big amount, and it's a bit unique. And the question is, why don't we, go into debt at a fairly low interest rates? Who knows if those interest rates will be around at that level in a few years? They might or might not. We don't know. But so I think we never discussed that if that's a wise discussion from the town manager. And of course, there's a philosophical question. Why should those savings, if you will, are generated by the current generation, and one of the issues with funding these capital investment is to say, the benefit is not only today, it's also for the next 25 years. So future generations should pay for those buildings also in 20 years by providing debt services. So we kind of brushed over it a little bit and never really had that discussion. So I was just wondering what the other members think about sinking a significant amount of free cash into capital investment. And are we supporting Melissa's rationale that she wants to free up or keep the debt capacity high for I guess the school building in a few years, to provide prepare for that already.
I'll let the committee answer.
I don't know if there's a right or wrong answer. I was
thoughts.
wondering, what's the I think it's a more of a core philosophical question.
Philosophical.
Thank you. How to spend money, and she made one decision without really having a discussion, I believe. And we let her make that decision without challenging her.
Does anyone have?
I'm not sure about that, but I wish she was here to join in this discussion. There's been so much water under the bridge since she did make that presentation. I'd love to hear that rationale again. I certainly would not be able to be eloquent enough to repeat her rationale for it, but I remember at the time, I thought it was a cogent argument that she made, or presentation that she made for why she was doing what she was recommending that we do.
So I think some. Oh, go ahead, Regina.
I was just going to say I agree with that, and I wouldn't necessarily characterize it as we didn't have any discussion about it. I felt that she presented her logic to us and gave us the opportunity to push back on it or ask questions. And I feel like I even had this discussion with her when I was on the select board, because I remember different members of the select board asking her questions about that as well. And maybe I'm thinking of that conversation because there's been a lot of conversations on these topics, but I don't know. I guess I remember it differently. I felt like we had the opportunity to challenge her decision. I didn't challenge it. I felt like she made a reasonable argument. So
So some of the rationale that she presented included one that we had, and what she felt was an enough free cash on hand that was going to be replenished by a sizable Amazon building permit that we could, reduce our levels of free cash and use that towards capital, right? So there's an appropriate threshold of free cash in her opinion, and that, we were going to be significantly over that once we received the Amazon building permit. So I think that was one. Two, it was anticipating the need for significant borrowing as part of facilities master plan too. So instead of borrowing now, we were not replacing the debt that had recently fallen off and those debt service payments, and we were going to utilize free cash to do that, right? So we also in turn are freeing up capacity in the levy, right, to fund additional operations. Yep, that's right. So I think there was a couple things that she presented. For me, I felt like it was appropriate, especially given our conversations around the levels of free cash that we were keeping. And obviously, as we know, using free cash is not an appropriate funding source for recurring revenue. So I'm not sure what else you would have recommended that we at this time utilize some of that free cash for if we felt like we were keeping too much free cash on hand. Unless, you wanted to save it, but there's a loss to potentially doing that. I think those were some of the comments that she made when we had the discussion, because I think we asked some of those questions.
I know, I remember I asked her that, and I also said,
Right.
normally you raise capital when you don't need capital, and you avoid raising capital when you need capital, because you're always in a bad situation. And right now we wouldn't need it and could raise it, because we have a fairly big amount free capacity, and then we have the cash, that it's kind of a free cash that would be, kind of a collateral and all that stuff. So, from a business perspective, I would raise cash now and not wait until I might not be able to do it. And that was the discussion. I know she pushed back about the capacity but you could see it also the other way around. So the question is, do we want to put that in a summary and to highlight? This is a bit of it's not a business as usual, it's a significant, and I'm not going to challenge it, just so that it's clear in our letter that something, fairly big happened, and, the residents should know about it. And maybe somebody has an issue and raises in the town meeting, and then it can be discussed then, since, we are basically writing this on behalf of the residents. And I think that's for me, an important information to put that in our report,
So let me pull this up, because my opinion would be, and I would like to hear the opinion of the rest of the committee, that this should and potentially is included, right, in this capital improvement plan section where it would be appropriately outlined. Right, so
Yeah.
The reason behind using free cash to fund the SIP for FY22 is to maintain our debt capacity to help partially fund the facilities master plan 2 in the future. With this year's project outlined as facilities master plan 2 being smaller in price, the town would like to save bonding capacity for future years' larger projects.
I guess I see both perspectives just as important, right? It's a great time to borrow because the rates are so low, but at the same time, we do have all this free cash, and it's growing. I feel like there's so much free cash with, the Amazon and even the building permits and everything like that. So it's a coin flip as to what side of the fence you want to be on and what you want to, I guess, put in people's heads, right? Is it going to be, we want to borrow or we want to save?
Yeah, Sasha, I wrote the capital investment. I was more wondering, put it in a summary, because
Well, do you have a historical, and maybe potentially it would be helpful to know this historically? Well, how long have you been on FinCom, Thomas?
7 years.
5 years, 7 years.
7th year. Yeah.
Have we ever used free cash to fund any parts of the SIP?
I believe we did something last year, but I don't know to what extent. And then, at the end, it's always so difficult what actually really happened. There's the budget, and then there's the actual, did we spend the money, and how much did we spend, and how did we then, it's then difficult to reconcile that. I think it's really to ask Lynn, what effectively did we use from out of free cash for all these investments? I think the plan was always there, or was there last year to use something. I have to go back into that. It just seems so. We basically here's Lynn.
Yeah, I'm here. We funded the capital improvement last year 100% from free cash as well.
And that did happen. So we didn't.
It did happen. Yes.
Yeah, I know. We started last year with using free cash, but not in previous. Yeah.
So just a note, and I agree with you. Interest rates of borrowing is much lower than it has been. But you also got to understand interest that we're earning on our money is lower. We're going to pay more for debt than we are going to earn on our money right now. So why not use it for the purpose of paying for capital improvements, and then in future years when the interest rates do go up and our investments are gaining more interest than what we're paying for debt, because we are a AAA bond rating, we get better interest rates than your normal community that doesn't have a AAA bond rating. So I think the decisions that the town manager has made to use free cash in these years to fund the capital is a smart move, because either way it's going, in the long run, it's going to make it much better for us in the future for these bigger projects, in my opinion.
Thank you, Lynn. Much appreciated. I'm glad you were kind of still on the call to give us a little bit of context on that. I will leave it up to the committee. If someone feels strongly that we should put that in the executive summary, we can. Okay, I am getting feedback that maybe that is not the case. So all right, let's see. All right, so what we do have in here is highlighting really that this is a reduced services municipal budget and a level services education budget. However, there's different, going to be additional appropriation of funds to the school. And it also talks about how we recommended favorable action, but we're going to hold on the other articles on kind of the allocation. And that's all it says. And it kind of has this summary. The only other thing I can think about is, do we want to have a sentence about the future needs of the school? So I would, in the executive summary.
I was going to suggest potentially adding that. I just feel like it's that important to say that if the needs, we are not going to be able to fund the needs without some big action. The sentence that you have about the debt over, the debt exclusion or override.
I have to agree, Sasha. I think you can just pull that sentence and just drop it right into the executive. Let's see. It's like
the last sentence of that paragraph. Okay. How does everyone else feel? Do you agree?
It's probably one of the most important things that we have to say going forward. It's the most important future comments.
Okay. Ed, you were going to say something as well?
Can I, once you pop in, let's take a look at it, because I want to see it in context.
Sure. Chris, do you mind muting? I think oh, thank you. So the sentence is essentially that. So we can take something similar. Right, I'm just going to copy and paste it up here. We can kind of take this and kind of rewrite this a bit. I can rewrite this a little bit and just kind of make it flow. So we talk about how it's a level services budget. However, there's additional funds for COVID related expenses. You know, there's been several presentations regarding the future needs of the school, and we anticipate that those needs will require, you know, one or all three of these things in the future. Thoughts?
Tax override is always a sweet word to say. Huh? I mean, those other means to plug the hole. I don't know. Have you ever seen tax override in any of our comments?
I don't know if we use the exact word, but I'm going to stop sharing because I'm having a hard time seeing I can't see everyone. So I don't know if we used the word last year, the actual word, Thomas, but we definitely alluded to additional revenue sources, I think is what we said. But we said at the tri-board meeting. So you know, it was said at the school committee meeting. It was said by the town manager explicitly. So that's.
It's not like we're saying this is what we have to do. It's saying these are the choices. I mean, you know, when the town makes a choice to do X, these are solutions for fulfilling those choices. I mean, that's really, it's not so much a judgment call. It's just, it's reality. It really, I don't think we're making a judgment and saying we're going to have to do this. We're not going to have to do it. It all depends on what the committee decides, and if the town agrees to go forward with the major construction or major changes in facilities. I think it's relatively neutral considering our advice, and we would be remiss not to say to the town that there is a significant expense coming down the road, which a lot of people highly support. You know, the schools, the issues with the schools, all that is huge. You can't ignore it. You have to comment on it.
On the flip side, though, are the comments premature? Is there anything in the meeting on building new schools, or is that still years away? I just think we need to be. I don't disagree with your point, but I think we need to be careful that we're not going out on a limb endorsing it, because you know we don't really know much about it, and I don't think our job is to endorse policy. It's to look at proposals and to look at the way cash flows. And right now, there's been no expenditures made, so I'm wondering if we're just short a little bit, maybe a year or two too soon. So think about it.
So point well taken, Ed, and I think that we 100%, and we can definitely rework the language for sure to make it abundantly clear that this is not us supporting a policy at all. It's that from a financial perspective, we were given a presentation, right? A 7-year operating plan from the schools, and that operating plan cannot be funded by our current revenue sources.
Well, the executive summary is an informational piece. I mean, we're trying to bring some things in summary to people's attention. It's fair to bring it to the attention. I don't think I would use the exact language that you have in the school department piece and just plug it into the executive summary, but I think something along those lines is appropriate to bring it to people's attention. You have to put them on notice that this was presented to the finance committee, presented in the school department budget, and that, you know, this may require significant new growth or a combination of the other two things you mentioned in the school department in order to meet the needs. So maybe not the exact language, but something along those lines that brings it to people's attention is fair.
We can finesse it a bit too. It's a little bit stark for the executive summary, I think, probably, right? We can make it a little bit.
Words like may,
I get
can,
it.
and probably or likely, I mean, things like that. It's all fair.
Yeah, no, I don't agree with that at all, Kevin. I think actually I kind of agree with how you position. I think it's the way we say it. You know, I just think we need to not sound like it's a foregone conclusion. Just, you know, you should be aware of and word it appropriately.
Fair.
When
And we
was
don't.
the last major investment into the school? So the last one was the high school, right? There was the last big building.
The kindergarten.
Okay, yeah.
Right. The modular kindergarten, right? That was it wasn't like a high school building, but it was a building.
When was that?
And with the Kittredge gym.
Was that 20 years, 25 years ago?
It was in, I can tell you, it was in 2002, 2003, maybe?
4.
I was close.
Sasha was in the high school, so she remembers.
I was the first class.
She was at Brooks.
I wasn't. So Dustin knows. I wasn't. It was Dustin knows. I wasn't there, but it was around there. That's funny. It was 2004.
Sasha, what about
what
wording? Sorry.
My kids were in
No,
the
go
high
ahead,
school.
Regina.
I was just going to say, what about saying something, I don't know how you can wordsmith this, but to say something like, you know, given what we're being presented by the school committee over the next several years, you know, we will have to consider options to fund, including these various things, and want to start the community discussion now or early or something, like to say that the point of putting this sentence is to say that we need to start the community dialogue now about these options, because that's really why we're doing it, right? We're doing it so that people don't not start talking about it until the 11th hour, and then it's like, oh my gosh, because we all know everyone needs a whole lot of time to digest all the options and think of all the pros and cons and find out whatever information they can and whatever. So to say that the point of us including this sentence is to start the community dialogue would be my suggestion.
Okay, I think that's a great comment, and we can certainly incorporate that and use the words community dialogue. I think that's really good. Everyone agree? Okay. So, all right. So I think if if there are no further comments, what I will do is I will try to incorporate some of those changes we talked about, take a pass, and then does anyone want to volunteer to put a couple other pairs of eyes on this week? Anyone? Bueller? I'll reach out to you guys. How's that? All right. Let's keep going. Let's move to the agenda item, old business. Any old business that we need to attend to? I don't have any. I think that we can move forward. Let's move to the prior meeting minutes approval. If we can take a look, that would be great. So these are the meeting minutes from April 27th. Do I have a motion?
This is Chris Allen. I move to approve the minutes from our meeting on April 27th. I'm sorry, I'm getting some help here.
Thank you, Chris. Do I have a second? Do I have a second?
This is Jen Laws. I'll second.
Thank you, Jen. I will take a roll call vote. Kevin Foley,
Yes.
Dustin Silk,
Yes.
Regina Keen,
Yes.
Jen Luz,
Yes.
Donovan O'Connell,
Yes.
Thomas Ringler,
Yes.
Ed McMillan,
Yes.
Chris Allen.
Yes.
I also vote in the affirmative. The minutes are approved. Okay, I think that I will take a motion to adjourn shortly. Just quickly, the warrant report. Once we get a few other pairs of eyes on it, I'll reach out to a few of you. Then I'll circulate that. We are lucky enough to have a small extension till next week, so that we'll have the weekend to finalize this. So I will send it over for everyone to review and give you a couple days. And if I don't hear from you, I will assume that you are comfortable with everything we are producing. If you are not, please reach out to me directly and express any questions, concerns, or edits. Otherwise, it will be sent Monday. Okay. Or you'll get an email from me regarding that. All right. Awesome. Thank you. I will take a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Move to adjourn.
Thank you, Kevin. Do I have a second?
It's Regina Keen. I'll second. Regina Keen, I second.
Take a roll call vote. Thank you, Regina. Chris Allen,
Yes.
Ed McMillan,
Yes.
Thomas Ringler,
Yes.
Donovan O'Connell,
Yes.
Jen Luz,
Yes.
Regina Keen,
Yes.
Dustin Silk,
Yes.
Kevin Foley.
Yes.
The meeting is adjourned. Thank you all so much. I really appreciate it.
Good night, everybody.
Good night,
All right.
everybody.
Thank you. Good night.
Talk to you soon. Thanks, Glenn. Bye.